Half the Truth, Chapter 3, The Dark Corner.
4 days at Millhaven, and I've built a map of the world. Not the real world, my world. The one measured in auras and angles and the distance between me and every person in this building at any given moment. I know the safe routes, the quiet hallways, the times of day when the common areas thin out enough to breathe. I know that the south stairwell is empty between classes because the door sticks and everyone takes the north one. I know that the library, a generous word for a room with 4 shelves and a window that doesn't close all the way, is deserted after 4 p.m. because nobody here reads for fun. I know that the grounds behind the main building have a dead zone in my spatial perception where the old concrete pad sits, thick enough to muffle whatever's beneath it. I know where Cole Mercer is at every hour of the day. I'm not stalking him. I'm not. The map doesn't have an off switch, and his aura is the loudest quiet thing in the building. A low, steady pulse that my perception snags on the way your eye catches movement in still water. He moves through the school on a circuit that's as deliberate as mine, dark hallways, empty rooms, the shadowed margins of every space. He eats alone, always in that corner where the column casts its shadow. He goes to class, barely, and sits in the back and says nothing. He returns to his room at night and turns off the lights, and the darkness in his room becomes that dense, heavy thing that defies everything I understand about how the physical world works. We haven't spoken. We've passed each other 3 more times in hallways, and each time the same thing happens, a brief collision of eye contact, a ripple in his surface aura, the shadows nearby leaning toward him like plants toward sun. And each time the lock in my chest turns another fraction, and I walk away with my pulse in my throat and my gift screaming that this boy is important in a way I don't have the framework to understand. On the 5th day, I stop waiting for the framework. The common room on the 1st floor has a television that's always on and never watched, a collection of board games with missing pieces, and furniture that was donated by someone who didn't love it the first time around. It's the social hub of Millhaven by default. The place students gather when they're not in class or in their rooms, filling the space with noise and auras that layer on top of each other like paint applied too thick. At 8 p.m., it's crowded. The shaved head kid, I've learned his name is Derek, holds court on the largest couch with his orbit of followers. A group of girls clusters near the window, their auras a braided rope of anxiety and performance and genuine affection that shifts by the minute. 2 boys play chess with a set that's missing a bishop, using a bottle cap as a stand-in. Cole is in the corner, not the same corner as the cafeteria, this one is worse. It's the darkest point in the room, where the overhead lighting doesn't reach, and the only illumination comes from the television's flickering glow. He's in a chair that's been pushed against the wall, hood up, legs crossed beneath him, a book open in his lap that he may or may not be reading. His presence in the room is a kind of negative space. Students flow around him without acknowledging him like water around a rock, their eyes sliding past his corner the way they always do. I get it now. It's not just that he's quiet and keeps to himself. There's something active happening. People don't notice him because something about him deflects notice. Not deliberately. I don't think he knows he's doing it. But the shadows he sits in seem to wrap around him like camouflage, and the part of a person's brain that registers other humans in a space simply skips him. Except mine. My brain doesn't skip anything. I cross the room. Every step costs me something. Not because I'm afraid of him, his intentions read as withdrawn, not dangerous, but because I've spent 8 months being invisible. Being the quiet girl who doesn't make trouble, doesn't start conversations, doesn't draw attention. Walking toward another person with purpose feels like stepping out of a building into a hurricane. Also, my heart is trying to exit through my ribcage, which isn't helping. I reach his corner. The shadow here is noticeably cooler than the rest of the room, not cold, but different, like the air has a different density. I can feel it on my skin the way you feel humidity change when you walk into a basement. He doesn't look up from his book. I know he knows I'm here. His aura shifted the moment I changed direction, a subtle tightening in the surface layers, the defensive response of someone who isn't used to being approached. I sit in the empty chair beside him. It's close enough that normal social rules would require one of us to say something, but far enough that I'm not in his space. I pull out my own book, the paperback from my duffel, the one my mother used to read, and I open it. I don't say anything. I just read. Or pretend to. The words on the page are meaningless shapes, because every atom of my attention is focused on the boy beside me. His aura at this distance is overwhelming, the surface layers so close I could reach out and touch them, the impossible depth beneath them pulling at my perception like gravity. The shadows in this corner aren't just dark. They're his. I'm sitting inside something that belongs to him, and the strangest part is that it doesn't feel threatening. It feels like being wrapped in a heavy blanket on a cold night, weight without menace. 3 minutes pass. 5. The common room churns with its usual noise. Derek says something loud. Someone laughs. The television drones. He turns a page in his book. I turn a page in mine. 7 minutes.
You're in my spot.
His voice is quieter than I expected. Low, a little rough, like it doesn't get used often. He's not looking at me, still looking at his book, but the words are unmistakably directed at me because there's no one else within 10 feet. His personal exclusion zone is effective. There's 2 chairs.
There's 2 chairs, because nobody ever sits in both of them.
Someone is now. He lifts his head. I see his face fully for the first time without distance or movement to blur the details. Sharp jaw. Eyebrows that pull together slightly, not in anger but in the permanent crease of someone who's been thinking too hard for too long. A mouth that looks like it used to smile and forgot how, and those eyes dark enough that pupil and iris merge into one like looking into water at night. He looks at me. I let him. This is the moment I'd normally pull back. When someone looks at me directly, the instinct to go small and invisible kicks in hard. A survival reflex honed by years of adults studying me with concern or suspicion, by foster parents who sensed something off before I'd been in their home a week. But I don't pull back. I meet his gaze and I hold it and I let my gift open as wide as it'll go. His aura floods my perception. The surface layers are right there, close enough to read in excruciating detail. The loneliness isn't just old, it's structural. It's part of his architecture. Load-bearing, something he was built on rather than something that happened to him. The pain is early, deep, the kind that starts in childhood when the foundation is still wet and hardens into the shape of whatever pressed into it. He was hurt by someone he needed. Not physically. His health reads clean, no scars, no damage, but in the way that counts more, he was left. Specifically and deliberately left, and beneath all of that, the darkness. At this distance, with my gift fully open, I can press further into it than I've managed before. It's not a wall or a floor, it's an ocean. Bottomless and alive, and somehow responsive. I swear it moves toward my perception the way his surface aura rippled when our eyes met in the hallway, like it's curious about me, like it wants to be read, but exists in a language my gift hasn't learned yet. The resonance I felt from my room, the matching frequency, is almost audible at this distance. A vibration in my chest, in my teeth, in the base of my skull. 2 tuning forks in the same room humming.
Why?
Why what?
Why are you here? In this corner. People don't come to this corner.
Because you're the only locked book I've ever found. Because your shadows feel like home. Because something in you is humming at the same frequency as something in me, and I need to know why. I like the quiet. Something changes in his aura. The defensive tightness doesn't dissolve, but it adjusts. Like a door that was locked and bolted shifting to just locked. He understands quiet. Quiet is his native language.
It's not quiet. It's never quiet here.
It's quieter in this corner. He studies me for a long moment. His eyes are doing something I haven't seen from him before. They're looking at me with focus, rather than passing assessment. Actually looking, the way I look at people. Like he's trying to read something he doesn't have the ability to read.
Yeah, it is.
He goes back to his book. I go back to mine. but something has shifted in the air between us. The shadow-wrapped space that I'm sitting inside has changed temperature. Not warmer exactly, more like it's decided I'm allowed to be here. We sit in silence for 20 minutes. It's the most comfortable I've been since arriving at Millhaven. Then, Derek ruins it. I feel his aura approaching before I hear him, that muddy orange dominance swelling as he detaches from his group and crosses the room. His intentions shift from their usual broadcast to something targeted. He's bored, he's looking for entertainment, and his version of entertainment involves finding someone who can't or won't push back. He stops in front of Cole's corner. Two of his satellites hover behind him, a boy with a nervous grin and another who looks like he'd rather be somewhere else but doesn't have the courage to say so.
Mercer, you know we got a new girl, right?
Derek's voice is the kind of loud that's designed to carry. He nods toward me.
Already working on her? Damn, bro. Didn't know you talked to humans.
Cole doesn't look up from his book. Derek's aura flares, the orange intensifying, frustration building because he's not getting the reaction he's fishing for. Being ignored is Derek's version of being attacked. His need to be acknowledged is so loud it practically has a sound.
Hey, I'm talking to you, Shadow Boy.
Shadow Boy. I file that. The other students have a name for him. They've noticed what I've noticed. The way he gravitates toward darkness, the way he seems to disappear in it, even if they don't understand what they're seeing. Cole still doesn't look up, but I feel something change. Not in his surface aura. That stays flat, controlled, a practiced non-response. Deeper, in the darkness. It stirs, like something sleeping that just opened one eye. The shadow from the column shifts. It's subtle enough that no one without my perception would catch it. The edge of the shadow, which has been static all evening because shadows cast by overhead lighting don't move unless the light source moves, slides about 3 inches across the floor toward Derek's foot. It moves the way oil moves on water. Slow, liquid, deliberate. My breath catches. Cole turns a page.
Whatever, freak.
Derek loses interest the way bullies do when the target won't perform. He turns and walks back to his group, his satellites trailing behind him. His aura is already recalibrating, searching for the next source of validation. The shadow slides back to where it was. I stare at the floor where it moved. 3 inches of carpet that were in light, and then in shadow, and then in light again, and the only explanation that fits what I saw is impossible. Shadows don't move on their own. Shadows are the absence of light, defined by geometry and physics, and they do not reach toward people like living things. Unless they do. Unless everything I think I know about what's possible is wrong. Unless the dense, heavy darkness in Cole's room and the depth in his aura and the shadows that lean toward him in hallways are all part of the same thing, something my gift has been trying to tell me since the first time I saw him. I look at Cole. He's reading his book, his face is blank, his aura has settled back to its baseline calm, but in the depths, the ocean beneath the surface, something just surfaced and submerged again, something that woke up for 3 seconds and showed itself and then sank back down. He doesn't know I saw it. He might not even know it happened. Is he always like that?
Derek? Yeah, he's harmless, just loud.
Shadow Boy? Something flickers across his face, too fast for anyone else to catch, but I'm not anyone else. It's not hurt exactly. It's the tired recognition of a label he's heard before, in other schools, from other mouths. The weird kid. The dark kid. The one who sits in corners and doesn't talk and makes people uneasy for reasons they can't articulate.
People call me a lot of things.
He says it like it doesn't matter. His aura says otherwise, a brief pulse of old pain, like pressing a bruise. Thea. He looks at me. My name. People might call you a lot of things, but I'm going to call you Cole, and you can call me Thea. The silence that follows is different from the silence before. Before was 2 strangers sharing a corner. This is 2 people who've exchanged names, which doesn't sound like much, but in a place like Millhaven, it's the equivalent of a handshake and a contract. His aura does something I've never seen it do. The defensive layer, the one that's been locked since I first read him, doesn't drop. But it thins. Just slightly, just enough that for a fraction of a second I catch a glimpse of what's behind it, and what's behind it is not the darkness I expected. It's warmth. Buried so deep under so many layers of solitude and self-protection that it barely registers. But it's there. A flicker of something that wants connection, the way a fire in an airless room wants oxygen, desperately, hopelessly, almost extinguished, but not quite. Then the layer thickens again, and it's gone.
Thea?
He repeats it, testing it the way Leo tested it in his office. But where Leo tasted the word professionally, Cole says it like he's memorizing it. Like names are rare things in his world, and he wants to make sure this one sticks.
You should know, nobody sits in this corner. It's not a rule, it's just how it works.
I know.
And you sat here anyway.
Yeah. He doesn't say anything else. Neither do I. We sit in his corner and read our books while the common room churns around us, and after 8 months of unbroken noise, the auras of other people fade to something I can almost ignore because the quiet in this shadow-wrapped space is louder than all of them combined. That night in room 217, I don't reach for the map. I don't scan the building or trace the auras or check on Grace or monitor Leo's underground obsidian river. I lie in the dark with my mother's book on my chest, the same paperback I pretended to read in Cole's corner, and I think about shadows. 3 inches! The shadow moved 3 inches. I've spent my entire life seeing things no one else can see. Auras, intentions, the map of the world that unfolds in my mind without permission. I've never questioned that these things are real because they're too consistent to be hallucination and too useful to be imagination. My mother confirmed them. Doctors couldn't explain them. They're mine, whatever they are. But what I saw tonight isn't my gift. It's his. Cole Mercer moved a shadow with his emotions, not metaphorically, not symbolically. The physical shadow on the physical floor responded to something that stirred inside him when Derek pushed too hard. It reached toward the threat, and then retreated when the threat left. Like a guard dog, like an extension of his body that operates on instinct rather than intent. He sits in dark corners because the dark wants him there. He's comfortable in shadows because the shadows are comfortable with him. The dense, heavy quality of the darkness in his room isn't my imagination or a flaw in my perception. It's him. His presence changes the physical properties of darkness, the way a magnet changes the behavior of iron filings. And he doesn't know. I could see it in his aura, the part I can read anyway. When the shadow moved, there was no corresponding spike of awareness in his emotional layers. No recognition, no control, no intention. Whatever happened, it happened below his conscious mind. He's been doing this his whole life without knowing, the same way I've been reading auras without understanding. 2 people carrying impossible things inside them, walking through the world labeled as broken because no one has a better word for what we are. The resonance hums between us across the building. His frequency, mine, the same note. I press my mother's book against my chest and close my eyes. My mother said the gift would make sense someday. She said I'd find the reason. I think the reason might be sitting in a dark corner on the first floor, reading a book by the light that doesn't exist, carrying an ocean inside him that nobody has ever seen. Nobody except me.